Most people think they know Lexus. Quiet, reliable, predictable. But that assumption has cost a lot of enthusiasts a chance to own something genuinely special. Because buried under the luxury commuter reputation are a handful of Lexus models that will outlast trends, embarrass newer cars, and still feel right 10 or 15 years from now. Cars you buy once, enjoy forever, and never need to apologize for owning. These aren't obvious picks. Let's find out together these sleepers. Most people walk right past this one in the used market, and that's exactly why it works. The 2009 to 2011 GS450h looks like a polite executive sedan, but living with it tells a very different story. You press the throttle from a rolling start, the electric motor fills the gap instantly, and suddenly you're moving like a V8 car without the noise or the fuel bill. That surprise never really wears off. Under the hood is a 3.5-liter V6 paired to Toyota's hybrid system, making a combined 338 horsepower. Power goes to the rear wheels through an electronically controlled CVT that feels smoother than most automatics once you understand it. In real driving, this thing pulls hard from 30 to 70, exactly where you actually use power. On the highway, owners routinely see high 20s miles per gallon with low 20s mixed driving. For a mid-size luxury sedan with this kind of shove, that's still impressive today. Here's the sleeper part enthusiasts miss. The hybrid components are shockingly durable. The battery packs regularly go well past 200,000 miles, and replacement costs have dropped dramatically. What you inspect instead are suspension bushings, worn control arms, and cooling system health for the hybrid inverter. Skip those checks, and you'll blame the wrong part later. The interior has aged better than most German rivals from the same era. Seats stay firm, electronics are simple, and nothing feels fragile. The mistake buyers make is assuming it's just a comfort car. Put decent tires on it, and it becomes a quiet, fast, daily that never feels stressed. Clean examples trade between $12,000 and $18,000 right now, which is absurd value for something this capable. This GS is for the enthusiast who wants speed without drama and comfort without boredom. And if you think this one hides its performance well, the next Lexus on the list doesn't bother hiding anything at all. This one isn't misunderstood because it's quiet. It's misunderstood because people assume it's fragile. Say high-revving Japanese V8, and most buyers immediately expect exotic maintenance, short engine life, or some kind of ticking time bomb. The 2009 to 2013 Lexus ISF exists almost entirely to prove that fear wrong. Ownership starts with the engine, 5.0 liters, naturally aspirated, 416 horsepower, and a red line that feels more race car than luxury sedan. The 8-speed automatic is old-school aggressive, snapping off shifts harder than most modern dual clutches at full throttle. This is not a smooth powertrain. It's honest, mechanical, and a little angry, which is exactly the point. Here's the mechanic insight most reviews skip. The 2UR GSE engine is massively overbuilt, forged internals, conservative tuning, and oiling designed for track abuse. These motors regularly cross 200,000 miles with nothing more than fluid changes and spark plugs. What actually wears are the consumables: brake rotors, rear tires, and occasionally the valley plate coolant seal. Ignore that seal, and you'll smell coolant long before it becomes catastrophic. Fuel economy sits in the mid-teens city, low 20s highway if you behave, which you won't. And that's the trade-off. This car rewards commitment. Drive it gently, and it feels stiff and impatient. Drive it the way it was designed, and suddenly everything makes sense. Market prices now live between $28,000 and $40,000 depending on mileage and originality. Modified cars are the buyer trap here. Stock examples age better, hold value better, and feel tighter long-term. This ISF is for someone who wants a last-of-its-kind experience without owning a museum piece. And speaking of comfort taken to the extreme, the next Lexus flips the script entirely. All right, quick pause. Grab your phone, hit subscribe, and tell me in the comments which city you're watching from. It helps the channel way more than you think, and it keeps videos like this coming your way. This one sneaks onto the list through a completely different door: long-term sanity. Not speed bragging, not spec sheet flexing, but the quiet math of ownership that only makes sense after a few years of living with it. The 2013 to 2017 Lexus LS460 is what happens when a flagship luxury sedan is engineered for people who actually keep their cars. The 4.6-liter naturally aspirated V8 makes 386 horsepower, paired to an 8-speed automatic that fades into the background exactly the way it should. It's not trying to impress you. It's trying to disappear. And on a 6-hour highway drive, that becomes the entire appeal. Real-world fuel economy lands around 18 city and 24 highway, which sounds average until you remember this thing weighs well over 2 tons and will do that mileage indefinitely. Here's where buyers get it wrong. They assume flagship means expensive headaches. In reality, the post-refresh LS460 fixed most of the earlier generation's weak points. Timing components are solid. Electronics are far more stable. The engine itself is one of Toyota's most proven large displacement designs. What you inspect instead is suspension choice. Air suspension rides beautifully, but costs more long-term. Steel spring cars ride slightly firmer and age better financially. That decision alone determines whether this is a bargain or a burden. Inside, nothing rattles. Leather holds up. Buttons still feel damped and deliberate. This is a car designed before touchscreens took over, and that restraint is why it still feels calm today. Ownership costs settle into predictable patterns. Fluids, brakes, tires, repeat. Prices now sit between $22,000 and $35,000 depending on mileage and suspension setup. For the buyer who wants silence, durability, and zero interest in trends, this LS makes an argument few modern luxury cars can touch. But Lexus didn't stop at quiet confidence. The next model adds complexity on purpose and somehow still pulls it off. If you were the person signing the original paperwork on this car, you weren't shopping, you were deciding. The 2013 to 2017 Lexus LS600h was bought by people who wanted the best Lexus made, full stop, and didn't need anyone else to understand why it cost what it did. From the driver's seat, the experience is different from the LS460 in a subtle but intentional way. The 5.0-liter V8 works with an electric motor for a combined 438 horsepower, delivered through an all-wheel drive system, and a CVT designed for smoothness over drama. You don't feel shifts. You feel momentum building without effort. It moves like a private jet taxiing for takeoff, not a sports sedan clearing its throat. Real-world fuel economy surprises first-time owners. High teens around town, low 20s on the highway, which sounds modest until you realize this is a full-size V8 all-wheel drive luxury flagship with hybrid assist. That efficiency was the point. Buyers wanted power without guilt, silence without sacrifice. The fear today is complexity, and that's where reality helps. The hybrid system is far more reliable than its reputation suggests. Battery packs last far longer than most expect, and inverter failures are rare when cooling systems are maintained. What actually gets expensive is neglect. Skipped coolant services, worn suspension components, and ignored brake wear will punish the second or third owner, not the first. Inside, this is Lexus XS at its peak. Massaging rear seats in some trims, layered sound insulation, and materials that simply don't degrade the way competitors' interiors did. It feels expensive because it was built without shortcuts. Used prices now sit shockingly low, often between $25,000 and $40,000. That gap between original intent and current market value is the sleeper angle. This car is for someone who appreciates engineering depth and isn't afraid of understanding what they own. And after something this complex and refined, the final Lexus on the list swings back to something far simpler and far more overlooked. This one usually gets discovered backwards. Someone drives a GS350, likes the balance, likes the size, then stumbles onto the existence of the GS460 and realizes Lexus quietly dropped a V8 into a chassis nobody was asking questions about. The 2008 to 2010 Lexus GS460 isn't rare because it was exclusive, it's rare because it made zero noise in the market. The heart of it is the 4.6-liter naturally aspirated V8 making 342 horsepower paired to an 8-speed automatic that was genuinely advanced for its time. This drivetrain doesn't shout. It leans on torque. You feel it when merging, when climbing grades, when passing without downshifts. It's effortless in a way turbo cars still struggle to replicate smoothly. Real-world fuel economy lands around 16 city and 23 highway if everything is healthy. Nobody buys this car to save fuel, but most owners are surprised it doesn't punish them either. The balance is the trick. It's quicker than it looks, calmer than it should be, and far more composed than most mid-size V8 sedans from the same era. Mechanics will tell you the engine itself is not the concern. The UR Series V8 is solid. What you inspect are cooling components, aging rubber hoses, and front suspension wear. Control arms and bushings take a beating if the car lived on rough roads. Ignore those, and the car feels tired. Address them, and it drives tight again instantly. Inside, the GS460 feels deliberately understated. No gimmicks, no experimental tech, just durable materials and ergonomics that still make sense. This is where buyers often misjudge it. They expect drama and miss the confidence baked into how everything works without asking for attention. Market prices usually sit between $14,000 and $20,000, sometimes less. That puts it dangerously close to four-cylinder luxury sedans, with half the character. This GS is for the enthusiast who values torque, reliability, and anonymity in equal measure. It's the kind of car you buy once, keep longer than planned, and quietly wonder why more people never noticed it at all. If you noticed a pattern here, it's not horsepower or badge prestige. It's intent. Every one of these Lexuses was built during a window where the engineers were still allowed to overdo things before efficiency targets and touchscreen trends started steering every decision. These are lifetime cars, not because they're perfect, but because they make sense long after the market moves on. They age slowly, they don't beg for attention, and they reward owners who actually drive their cars instead of flipping them. The real sleeper move isn't buying the loudest thing in the room, it's buying the car that still feels right when everyone else is shopping again. If this list made you rethink what boring Lexus really means, there are a few more uncomfortable truths waiting on the channel.